Hey buddies, welcome back to Stay Positive. I hope your quarantines have been alright. I know it just keeps going here in the US. We keep on sticking around indoors. I think that's no end in sight, which is fun. I've been mainly just sitting at my desk, staring out the window, making podcasts. So things could be worse. I'm very grateful to have what I have. And because I make this podcast and I upload it to YouTube, as a lot of you know, I'm trying to make more YouTube video stuff because stand-up at the moment's kind of on hold. I do some Zoom shows, which I will post from time to time, but it doesn't quite come as often as regular live stand-up shows used to. And of course, we're not doing live stand-up comedy these days, so yeah, check out my YouTube channel because I'll probably put more videos up that are just funny, fun ones. Okay? Is that a thing? Is that a genre? All right. Here's today's interview. It's with a great person that I got the pleasure of working with when I worked on the show Drop the Mic. He was the beatboxer. So whenever they were like, hey, Joshua, throw us a beat or whatever people would request, he was that guy. So it's very exciting. And we actually reconvened recently because he runs an Instagram live show called The Joe and Joshua Show. He also has another one called The Silverstein Show that he does with his wife, which is so cute, and they're just a power couple. And and on top of that, he's a beatboxer and comedian, and runs his own creative writing workshop. Plenty of things that we talk about throughout this. But I would say, the clickbait version of this interview and the headline of this interview is that he was Meghan Markle, the princess. He was her first kiss, and we talk about it, so don't even worry about it. I made sure to bring it up. But no matter whose first kiss he was, he's a very fascinating human being in his own right. So please listen to this interview with Joshua Silverstein. But yes, so welcome to the podcast, Joshua Silverstein.
Yay!
Thanks for
Thanks,
coming on.
This is exciting.
I mean, it's a big honor. I'm so happy that I got to do your guys' Joe and Joshua show. That was really fun.
That was great. You were awesome.
It's been fun seeing. Oh man, I had such a blast, and it was a lot of I think it's such a cool show that you guys are just putting on your Instagram lives for no cost.
Yeah.
What a blessing.
Oh yeah, no cost. No cost. Right. Yeah.
You got to get that Patreon going. That's the truth.
Can I tell you a story? Real quick about how old and dumb I am? All right, so I'm always like so when YouTube first became a thing, I was already doing live shows, and I had someone say, you should YouTube it. And I was like, what the fuck is that? And they're like, it's a thing online. And I was like, no, they got to be here. That's my whole thing. If they miss the show, they miss the show, and then they feel bad about it. And then I realized that that's not how people work, and people want to record things and put it up on YouTube. And then YouTube became a huge thing. And then a couple years later, podcasts became a thing, and I didn't know what they were. And I was getting invited to do podcasts. And so I'd show up to a venue where there was an audience. And so I thought that I was performing for an audience, and I didn't understand that, no, the people that are going to listen to this aren't going to see you. So I remember I did a whole bit that was all pantomime and sound effects. And I remember the host kind of watching and going, well, this is a dumb thing he's doing. And it took years went by, and I was like, oh, the podcast. That's why it didn't make any sense, and people didn't understand what I was doing. But so when you say Patreon, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that is. Right. I don't really know what the hell that is.
Oh, okay. It's just, it's basically a subscription service, that your fans can sign up for. So they're pledging, $1 a month. That's nothing. But then if you get a bunch of people on board, and then you can give them special content like Joe and Joshua show, or if you guys keep that free, then maybe they get a bonus episode every month or something. That's kind of I don't even do it, so I just know it's out there.
Sounds hard.
It's a whole thing.
Sounds difficult and challenging.
I know.
I don't like
it's
it.
A lot of administration. Yeah, you got to hire a business person to go and divvy up what's going on. Probably.
I got 3 kids. I can't handle that.
Yes, you do have 3 kids.
I can't handle it.
Sheesh. How are you handling everything with 3 kids and Instagram living every other day? It's a lot of work. I imagine.
I gotta tell you, the hardest thing is, so we have a 10-month-old, and that's the hardest. Thank you. That's the hardest part of it, of anything right now is he's just kind of the life, right? Like he's like where is what I need right now, and
yes.
Today he took a 2-hour nap. And Cynthia was the happiest she's been in like months. It was amazing. Like she was like floating around the house, and I was like, "What's going on with you?" He's still sleeping, and I was like, "Do you want to have sex? I don't know. What do we do?"
Right. You have to have a list ready when it happens again.
I laid down. I watched the TV show. I was like, I'm gonna finish this movie.
Wow.
So as far as having kids during the pandemic, the hardest thing is right now our 10-month-old, our 7-year-old. She was fine for the first few months, and then I think it just started to hit her like, oh, I miss my friends, and so I think for her, she's like, her brother's 12, and he's entering that interesting phase where he's realizing that they're not peers, and she's having a hard time letting go of that, and she's like, I need my time with my big brother, and he's like, leave me alone. And so he's camping in the backyard. That's his thing now, is he tip a tent, and so he like camps out there at night. But he
nice.
So he loves it, but our daughter loves being home with mom and dad and little brother and big brother, but she's missing her like 7-year-old compadres and companionships. Sure. But and then our son, as I was saying, he's in heaven. He's very nerdy.
Oh wow.
He's a very gifted young person. He reads at a senior college level. He's off the charts intelligent. And he could not be more happy. He's like, he did online learning. He goes to a private school where his class is like 5 other kids, and
nice.
And he excelled because the teacher could just mute people. So he was like, no one's talking in class anymore.
Oh, that's true. Very efficient.
Yeah, he loved it. He hasn't worn pants in 3 months. He just wears a robe every day. I mean, he's like, he's like, if the pandemic were to end, he'd be sad. He'd be like, I don't want to. I don't want to go outside. So
go back to all the politics of going to school wearing pants. What's that all about?
The social norms and the social anxiety. He's like, he's got none of that. He's playing. He made up a whole like D&D crew that they meet on Mondays and do D&D via Zoom. I mean,
that's something you could do over Zoom.
Yeah, he's thriving. Cool. So the kids are great. Essentially, it's hard on the parents, hard on us, but I don't know. We're good. I think with the kids, it's hard because most people are not equipped to have their kids with them 24/7. Most people people are like, the kids go to school and leave us alone for at least 8 hours a day, and and our kids have been with us literally like summer vacations. Now we're like, what's the difference between it's been vacation,
right? Yeah, it's like, oh yay, no Zoom for a little bit of some hours, I guess, but not the full school day.
Right. So there, and then with Lila, she was in first grade, so now she's moving to second, but her teacher didn't know how to do any of it. Like they were just having a hard time with the whole Zoom thing. So the school thing actually gave her anxiety. So she's like, cool, no more school. I mean, we keep them. We're nerdy parents, so we keep them on a pretty specific schedule. So they have to do X, Y, and Z throughout the week. But just X, Y, and Z, not A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Just X, Y, and Z. Just 3 letters.
Well, skip to the end.
That's right. And so they're we're still engaging with them, and we're very politically and socially conscious parents. So we have conversations about what's going on in the world with them. So they're very informed about what's happening outside. But they're good. The kids are good.
That's great. I mean, good to hear. But I'm impressed with your ability to juggle all that, along with it would be tough no matter what, of course. But it's definitely an added layer to the complexity of parenting.
It is. So Cynthia's my life partner. She's a photographer, and she I planned on converting our garage into a theater before we even knew the pandemic happened. And so it kind of worked out. It was very serendipity, serendipitous of the whole thing to kind of be like, oh, now you can't leave. So we were like, well, we have no excuse now. We kind of just we have
home projects.
Yeah, we have to just create. And so so the studio was meant for her to be able to shoot in it and for me to be able to film and do live stuff in it. And so we just kind of fell into, we were always talking about the news anyway, and we thought, well, let's just, we didn't feel like there was a news source that was reflective of people who are people of color, number one, but also people who are not, we are like the last remaining of middle class, right? Like we're not at all upper higher class people. We're still hustling. We're still artists that are living paycheck to paycheck, and we didn't feel like the news sources were reflecting that experience. And so we were like, let's talk about what it's like for us to be, like we are brown people who are experiencing the stuff that people are talking about. We're not just talking about it. We have a very specific opinion because we're living through it. So we do it every day, and we enjoy it. And the hardest part about it is, of course, we got to figure out what the kids are doing while we're on live stuff.
Right.
And then, and luckily for us, my mom lives downstairs. And then Cynthia's mom is always like popping up over. So the grandparents are always kind of like here anyway, and they help out a lot. So We're pretty lucky.
That's great. Yeah, I mean the fact. I mean that's great that you guys are both creatives. I feel like I notice it more and more. I think a lot of couples who are able to collaborate creatively, of course. I guess it's been happening for a long time, but I always find it very inspiring, and it seems like a really, it's a interesting thing because I think when it comes to partnership and romantic partnership, I think it can be daunting to always spend a lot of time with your partner. But now, obviously, with the pandemic, it's necessary. And so it's great that you guys are not only able to spend time together, but also like creating something together, which clearly you enjoy. That's what it looks like from my perspective. Which is really tough.
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday actually on our show. We talked about Jada Pinkett and Will Smith and how Jada and Will dropped the bomb on American pop culture, and apparently Jada was dating some guy, and Will was like, I thought I'd never see Jada again, and people were like, oh my God, bubble popped, and we talked about it because we feel like oftentimes celebrity couples will portray to be flawless and perfect, and Cynthia and I, we try to show people that our authentic selves. I mean, we're a couple that are very much in love with each other, but love is like 1/5 of what makes a relationship successful. Like the love part is easy for us, like I'm a loving person and so is she, and we're both very loyal, and that part's easy. But the hard stuff is the respect, the honor, the valuing. We had a guest on yesterday on the Joe and Joshua show who talked about. Her name is Pankitsani, and she talked about she's of Indigi Mama, and it's a whole movement she started about deconstruction of the patriarchy and how it oppresses the female reproductive system, right? And so in that podcast, we asked, like what is it that men can do better, specifically men and people in relationships can do better in supporting their partners when they're going through that time. And what she said was very revealing to me, and it kind of, I loved it because I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I hadn't thought of it like this. But she's like, I need to make sure that when Cynthia is experiencing that time, that I make it as loving and as safe as possible for her. And I think part of the thing that we don't talk about in regards to how you show up in a relationship is doing your best to make sure your partner feels safe, and doing your best to make sure that the two of you are co-creating an environment where if something's happening where it's time for that partner to be relaxed and comfortable, that your partner's doing the best they can to cultivate that space for you. I mean, when Cynthia got pregnant this last time, we had Baby Island. And so Baby Island was like, she stays in the bed the entire time. So she's not supposed to get out of bed while she heals and, recovers. And anyway, all this to say is like, it's work, right? Like, it's not just showing up and creating.
Like, hey, you guys are having fun.
Yeah, it's like, it's great. It's like a lot of work, and it's a lot of like.
Right, that's great.
Letting go of my own toxic stuff that gets in the way of me showing up for her, and her letting go of her toxic stuff that gets away from me. And you don't hear about that stuff when you're listening to Will and Jada or like Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt or whatever the thing is.
Right,
they don't talk about that kind of stuff.
You just see when it comes to when it bubbles up enough where they have to tell us about it, right? But I mean, and I appreciate, I watched the Red Table Talk, and it was pretty, I guess I appreciated, it's like, it's so tough, I think, especially public figures in general, but, the fact that it would be great to have more of a conversation out there about just our modern take on relationships, because it's just so different and it's always changing, and it is really like what you said, it's like the sort of romanticizing of the love aspect, though it's important, it is just really, it has to take kind of a lesser position now, because there's so many other things you have to do, especially also when you are parents too. So it's like your jobs then get added on. So anyway,
100%.
That's inspiring.
100%.
But I totally I appreciate the transparency on it. I think one thing that I was really like, it was talking with you and Joe too, and it's like I'm pretty impressed with how you guys tackle these tough topics. And then I was sort of, reading more about your guys' partnership, and like coming from spoken word, I guess, is that how you met, right? I guess, is that like, I think that's really cool in the sense of, I find it really hard to talk about tough topics, but comedy is what, gets us there, right? And so then it's like, okay, that's why I like it so much, because it kind of is able to finally, talk about those things that are bugging you, or talk about the things that are harder to have in conversation. But especially, I mean, from what little I know about spoken word, that's also like a great avenue for talking and tackling tough topics, maybe even more so than comedy. But I don't know, and you do all these different things too, so I guess like, how has that informed you as like an artist, and then being able to, when everything is happening, be the person who's able to talk about it right away when everybody's still like, oh God, how do we process this? And it's like, well, Joshua's on Instagram and I can watch his stuff and it was great. And it's like, okay, wow, what a relief, because it's really, it is definitely a fascinating time. But so.
I mean, so my artistic avenue has been really fragmented, right? So I started, the very first thing I ever wanted to be as a kid was a clown. That was like the first thing. I was like, I want to be a clown, red nose, giant shoes. Like, I mean, I was a first grader, and people would say, what do you want to be? And I go, I want to be a clown. And then it became, I want to be a doctor and a clown. I didn't know who Patch Adams was yet, but I wanted to be a Dr. Clown. And but so I always loved comedy, and I always loved theater, and I always loved the notion that comedy and theater can be an avenue of healing, right? Like that. Those were always themes in my life. And so as a kid, I did a lot of theater programs and theater training, a lot of improv stuff growing up when I was young. And then when I was in high school, theater kind of got pushed to the side, and I began writing more. And then I also began... I really dove into my activism, and I was like this guy in high school who was very much about ethnic deconstruction and breaking away stereotypes. And I was like, I was one of these kids that was like, man, BSU is full of shit because all they do is bake sales. Let's go fucking like I was this kid, right? And my peers were like, Josh was tripping, and I had a buddy at the time, and so the two of us were like those dudes. We were always trying to start a revolution. Meanwhile, he was a director, and I was an actor and a writer, and he also wrote. And so we were always creating content and putting on plays in high school. And then at the same time, though, I was battling insecurities. I was battling this really deep, toxic seeds of like, no one wants to hear my voice. I'm not enough. How do I fit in? How do I get accepted? Do people like me? Do I have any friends? Like I was battling a lot of these toxic ideas of myself. And I didn't have an outlet to really cope with any of that stuff. And so somehow all that weird anxiety that I was growing with turned into a speech impediment. And so all of a sudden I had a difficulty expressing myself with words, even though on this other side I would thrive on stage. So it was this weird duality where like in intimate circles and in conversations with my peers, I would stutter and mumble, but you put me on stage and I'm comfortable, I can do anything. So the speech impediment took over most of my life when I became a teenager. And so around 16, I started beatboxing more. And then all of a sudden I found that beatboxing was a cool, easy way to be on stage and not talk, right? Because I still wanted to be on stage so bad. I still wanted to be in front of people. I still wanted to express, but I was so afraid to use words because they wished they wouldn't come out effortlessly. And so, anyway, so you know, I became through the spoken word scene, because that was the scene that I got brought into by a friend. I didn't know that LA had a really immense spoken word scene until like 2000 or 1999. And so I went to this spot called the Poetry Lounge that's been around for the last 22 years. And I hopped on stage, and it was a spoken word night every Tuesday night, and I just started beatboxing. And so for whatever reason, that was the space that I felt comfortable in. That community embraced me. I became the beatboxer for several poets. I became a touring beatboxer, hooked up with Norman Lear, toured for 3 years. And as a result of being around and in the spoken word community, I was writing my own stuff, but I didn't start really sharing it until like 2004. And so here we are now, where now I have all these pockets of creative expression where people there are some communities that know me as just a beatboxer. There are some that know me as a writer and a poet. There are some that know me as a comic or an improviser, and so I feel like within the last few years I've tried to kind of put everything together into one package. But everything that, again, like going back to my roots, my thing has always been, how can I be on stage and have an experience that is transcending, and how can I, as an artist, learn, and beyond having a cathartic moment, which is just about me, how can I be an example that gives other people the permission to be themselves? Because one of the things that I've struggled with throughout my life was, how can I be, like, people aren't gonna let me be me, and I wish I could go back in time and just be like, yo, just be who you are, it's okay. So my work, it has for as long as I've been able to comfortably articulate words on stage, my work has been about making sure it's a reflection of people need to feel comfortable enough to show who they are, and whatever that means. However you identify in the world, we need to create a safe space for you to be that person, and that's just my life work.
Wow. Okay, I love it. That's so many things.
So many things. So sorry. Talking too much.
It's lovely. I mean, I think that's really just a great example of how, kind of an artist becomes a Joshua Silverstein, but also like how all these things aren't unrelated. it's definitely like this is where your path took you, and the fact that your North Star is basically, this beautiful thing of wanting to be, allowing people to be themselves is huge. And I think that was, oftentimes all these identity and, obviously human rights issues that come up recently, that is very much a sharing point of all of them, is that like, not only are we wanting to just treat everyone and be, human and allow everyone to like have equality, obviously, but it's definitely that sort of feeling of like, if we just kind of like maybe also allowed people to be themselves in this regard, maybe then they would allow other people to be themselves in this regard,
I mean, it's deep, right? Because, we were just having a conversation about this morning where in my writing class that I teach, and I was sharing that, there's a lot happening, right? There's a lot of information being unearthed. White people are recognizing their own privilege for the very first time. People are recognizing their own the ways they contribute to systemic racism, and one of the things that I'm very adamant about is none of it will matter unless we give people the space to be wrong. Right? And right now, to be wrong is uncomfortable. To be wrong is scary. Look, I'm still learning the language of LGBTQIA, and I'm an ally, and it still breaks my brain apart to be like, they, because as a writer, that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, you're a you or a her or a him or a it. And so it's really, as much as I am understanding and compassionate to people's journeys to identify, I as someone who am trying to create space also struggle with, I need to change my way of thinking about what identity looks like as well. So we don't have safe spaces to have those kind of conversations where people can go, here's what I think, I'm not attached to it, but this is what I've thought my whole life. Now, tell me what the right way to think is so I can maybe, let go of some of these thoughts. We're still very, right. It's still very scary to be like, I didn't know that was offensive. I didn't know Tyler Perry was terrible. Like people, it's very hard to have that conversation when we're constantly crucifying people for making mistakes. And so on one hand, stop making mistakes, but on the other hand, we need to create the safe space to have dialogue so people feel comfortable coming to the table and being like, listen, the reality is my ancestors taught me this. I didn't know. I want to be different. Show me the way. And so a lot of it is, how do we make the space? How do we make the space to have dialogue that is about the world we're in right now so we can have, moving and growing experiences?
Yeah, that's very true. I think,
I don't know, maybe not.
Everybody I talk to, I think, we're always like, oh, wait, and I think we're trying to, like, we'll try to say things, even now, I'm like, okay, well, I guess I should probably write it down and then, and then like figure out if that's right and then maybe, cross-reference it with some other things, but to put it out there would be scary. So, I mean, it's a learning experience, and that's why I also think it is important that if you do have that attitude of, someone like yourself where you're like, I can create this space and this is something that I work towards, then you're actually putting stuff out there. And I think by watching your stuff, I feel more comfortable to at least, learn more up front, but then also, be hopefully more comfortable to talk about stuff, because that is important at the end of the day, conversation, right? That's why I love podcasts, actually, because they are long form. And so I feel a little bit more like we can have a human conversation rather than like, this character, those, 280 characters on Twitter, it didn't go so well,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I guess I didn't, So that's scary, right? Anyway, but and back to what you were saying too about like how you were feeling insecure at that time, which is a tricky time no matter what, high school, the fact that you're, able to get on stage is big, right? But I can totally relate to the idea of like sometimes people see us go on stage and they think, well, look, Joshua's beatboxing on national television, so how can I think that he's at all, had any struggles with who he is? And it's like, well, of course.
Oh my God.
We all do. And so it's really, it's a big thing, I think, when I hear people talk about that, but especially because I think people who also don't perform on stage, they see the stage as such a crazy hurdle. So I think I even try to explain, I wish I could be who I am on stage sometimes, right?
Yeah.
It is a very different person sometimes, and I feel like I've gone through the ringer of, okay, well, I think people think I'm this way because they've seen me do stand-up comedy, say, and then when I actually show up, who are they getting but just me?
Yeah.
But I don't know
it's hard, man. It's hard. I feel like one of the things that I've tried to do as much as possible in my life is be like, I want people to accept me as a multifaceted human being, right? Like I want that. That's the dream from my life, which is people think Joshua Silverstein, they go, oh, he's all of that. I don't have to find a lane. I know that the way our industry works is you kind of have to be in a lane or else it's hard. People need to be able to put you in a box or else they can't really grab onto you. So it's like, people, I get that. I understand that. But for myself, like I see myself as being, infinite in its ability to create and express, right? So that's what I want. So I try to be the same person that I am on stage, off stage, which is like, that's just another version of myself, whether I'm being a character or whatever, I try to be the same person. And even if I'm doing satire, which a lot of my comedy is social commentary and satire, the whole point for me is like, these are things I really think, these are things that I am, these are my opinion, which is kind of the blessing of being someone who writes their own material, right? Like it's my own voice, my own thoughts. It's different if you're playing a character on someone else's project where you're like, I'm acting and this is not what I believe. But so I feel you, like I try to at least create that through line with my self-cultivated content, so the stuff that you see on Instagram and YouTube or Twitter, which I'm barely on, it's very much this is me. I don't know how to do it. I try to figure it out. I'm not good at it.
It's scary over there. But that's okay. Yeah. So I think I do also feel you about the people do want us to pick a lane, but I mean at the end of the day, it's like that's also the same thinking that is, oh well, if you're Asian, you have to be this kind of character. If you're Black, you have to be this kind of character. So if we just stay away from the boxes in general, maybe it's for the best, and then the rest of the world will catch up to you.
Maybe, hopefully.
But yeah, I mean, I felt weird about, say, I did used to do, I still do, but I studied computer science. I was pretty into some tech stuff. Granted, didn't go into it. Really wanted to do comedy and TV and stuff like that. But I think sometimes when people hear that about me, it's like, okay, well then, is it that you want to make an app that's for laughter? And it's like, no. You know what I mean? I think sometimes certain combinations can be tough. But yeah, ideally, if it's two performing things, I think there are ways that that works well. And I think some of the best, comedians are the ones who are trying to change it a little bit or bringing their own thing to the table, because obviously there's so many, right? So it's like, how do we stand out? Well, if you have an awesome skill or different perspectives of how you're going to fit, deliver or perform.
It's weird.
That's great.
Because it's almost like we shun people who have more than one passion, right? Like when I found out that you did computer sciences, I was like, that's cool. And in my brain and in my head, it just added on to your awesomeness. I didn't go, oh, well then she's not a real comic. In my brain, it's
people do that.
Yeah, people do that. People go, if you have more than one passion, you clearly are of one or the other. You can't, and usually in most cases, it's the one you are is not the one that is the most desired, right? So instead of people being like, oh, she's probably more of a comic than a computer science person, they're like, she probably does tech more than comedy because who would want to do the comedy route, So So I don't know. It's all weird, and I find myself, how do we deconstruct that? And I guess you're right. It's just you got to stick to it, and hopefully the world catches up to you. You know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the dream.
Right.
But, I mean, also too, like, I think sometimes with the competition, maybe it is like, oh, if you see somebody doing something you're doing and they do something else, it's like, oh, well, hopefully they do the other thing because I don't want to have to compete with them.
Right. Well, I tell you what.
So many.
I got to tell you, like, Reggie Watts is someone that I feel like I definitely find myself going, oh, well, he's more of a musician than a beatboxer. So I'm actually I'm the funny beatboxer. He's the funny musician. I find myself doing that totally because especially for beatboxing. I mean, I gotta tell you, like, working on Drop the Mic was one of the most. I went to work with anxiety every single day. Every single day.
Let's get into it.
Yeah. Let's get into it.
I mean, yeah, I don't know how you did that. That's the other thing too, and I wanted to ask you, but I know it's so many things, but yeah, the fact that you had to do the beatboxing for Drop the Mic, it's a very, I'm so happy you were like at least acknowledged and everything, but it is a thankless thing because you are really listen, speeding up, slowing down, adjusting, like dealing with egos. It's
okay. So I'll tell you.
How did that go?
Let's get into it. So I was the only person that was carried from the beginning of that show's, like
from James Corden.
Yeah, like, so it was just me, so the only talent that kept on with the show was me, because Reggie didn't host, say, on the original one, the what do you call it, the spinoff. So there was this certain kind of like, all right, so maybe I'm in, but there was always this fear because I never felt like, and this again, I come from lots and lots of insecurity, so there was never this sense of thank you that I felt from production, right? So, the first conversation I had with production was, we're gonna put you in the band pit, right? So it's gonna be you next to DJ Newmark. And it's going to be like, it's going to be your area, and like you're going to be up there. And then so I get to set the first day, and I'm like, so where do I stand? And they're like, oh, yeah, you don't really fit up there, do you? And I was like, not really. And they were like, oh, we'll put you over there. And I was like, okay, cool. So and then they were like, yeah, we're gonna put you over here, and we're gonna put a couch behind you, and like we're gonna make it like the pitch to me was, it's gonna be like the hot girl pit. And I was like, okay. So they're gonna, they're like, we're gonna have all these hot girls all around you, and you're gonna be beatboxing. And I was like,
you gotta have one per show,
Yeah. And I was like, okay. And so they're building the little bird's nest, and then they go, actually, can you come down to this one? So then I got moved down one tier. So there was like the high. There's like the VIP area, and then there was below that. And they're like, well, you'll be below it. And I was like, okay, well, is there going to be a camera that's going to ever come over here? I didn't speak up often, but the more I paid attention, the further back I got pushed, right? And so the show was when it first aired, it was, Redman, Haley, and then Newmark, and that was it. And I was like, can I be in the credits, guys? Because I think I'm in the show every show.
Yeah.
And then what I was told by Ben was that it wasn't their decision, it was the network's decision. And the network wanted to cut. They didn't feel like they needed to put me into the credits because I wasn't a superstar. And I was like, oh, that sucks. And so there was just a lot of
Jesus.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Sorry, that's a real.
It was kind of crappy, and there was a lot of that.
Starting off strong.
Yeah, starting off strong. Season 1, there was an episode where so it was David Arquette versus, I don't know who he was battling, and so David Arquette says, Joshua, give me a beat. And the only reason why he says, he's like the actor started saying Joshua, because I said, hey guys, when you ask for a beat, say Joshua, give me a beat. Don't just say give me a beat. Like say my name. Because I was like, if they say my name enough, the camera's gonna have to at some point see who the hell Joshua is.
Who is Joshua? Yeah. Like, so, what is this like voiceless?
Right. So I was like,
faceless voice.
Right. So, so they started showing my face because of that. But this episode, nice. David Arquette says, give me a beat, and the camera goes to where I'm at, and I wasn't there. And the reason why I wasn't there is because I was rehearsing with someone in another dressing room for the next episode. And so no one came and got me. Like they called the stage hands and like no one they're
like, we're just gonna pan to this empty area.
And they did.
It'll be fine.
And they did.
Okay.
And and so I was like, holy shit, like they not only was I feeling like I kept getting pushed to the background, but now they just showed me that they will literally start the show without me even being there. And so I just
oh god,
I just was like, I was constantly like, I don't know how legit this gig is when they can just get without me. And I got in trouble for that by the stage manager. And then later on, they were like, no, it wasn't your fault. And I think during that episode, I think Method Man also gave me some shit for it. And then everyone kind of realized it wasn't my fault because I was doing my job.
Yeah, literally.
We ended up getting other beatboxers to help with rehearsing, and that made things harder. Yeah, it made things hard. Really? Because what happened was I wouldn't be in the room rehearsing with the talent. And so all of a sudden, talent would go to set, and they'd be like, give me that beat, and it'd be a different beat, and they would freak out. And so
because it's different beatboxing.
Right. And so there was so that adds my anxiety. Season 1 wrap, and this is me bitching. So season one wrapped. We had like a little wrap party, so we're all in the room, and Haley Baldwin's handing out sweaters to people with their name on it. It's very sweet. And Ben is thanking people, and he's like, I just want to thank the writers. Oh my God, the writers are so great. And you guys couldn't show that. I want to thank Jensen and Eliza, and oh my God, it's so great. I want to thank the accounting. Oh my God, thank you so much, accounting. And he doesn't thank me at all. He thanks thanks everybody in the band. He by name, and then he goes, "Oh my God, I forgot someone. The janitors. Oh my God, janitors! Thank you so much, janitors, for." And I was like, "Oh man!" And then and it was a trip because I was standing in the room as he forgot me, and Eliza was in front of me, and she turned around and she was like, "Thank you." Yeah, and I think I had like tears in my eyes because I was like, "This shit." But it's my own little insecurity stuff. But it was just like that show was so hard because I really showed up to play ball every day, and I was really showing up to really give it my all and make sure we had a great show. And yet, I just felt like at any point I could get fired or replaced, or it just did. I didn't feel like I mattered. But again, that's my own shit. But it's my own shit based on.
But that is an important.
Yeah.
That's important. You should be feeling like you are supposed to be there.
Yeah.
That's like kind of part of the treating their talent.
But also the thing that was the underlying thing about the show for me was this show was a big deal. And so as a black person trying to make it in the industry, I was like, yo, this is a stepping stone for me. And this gig could lead to other things, but it can't lead to other things if no one knows I'm doing it. And so if I wasn't in the opening credits, and if I wasn't shown like equivalent to the way Method Man was shown, then it felt like people were going to just dismiss me as part of the show. And so I wasn't able to take it anywhere. And so if the feeling felt very much like, this show's going to happen and be over, and then I'm going to have to start all over again. And that was that was underneath the anxiety of I have to work hard to build my career. I want to use this, but I'm having a hard time using this for my advantage. And so, yeah, I mean, it was, right. I as I say it's very complaining. And at the end of the day, I was very lucky to be on the show, and it was a privilege, and it was like such a amazing opportunity, and I did make it work to my advantage. But yeah, at the time, oh my God, every day it was just like, oh God, what's gonna happen today?
Sure. And that's I want to, I guess, validate your feelings as far as like, I think I was only there, I think I joined as part of the crew as a writer's assistant, maybe second season or like season 1B or whatever they divided it up as. Yeah. And yeah, so I didn't see the whole thing, but I think that's really telling in the sense that like, it was a really like crazy production in the sense like how much they churned out. And so there was like a lot going on. So I could totally see there being people who ended up, feeling that way in the sense of like, even if you even felt that way, like that is pretty concerning. So,
yeah.
And I mean, of course the gossip about town, but no, I mean like, hearing from other people that I worked with on the show as well, right?
Yeah.
Like you are not alone in that there's like, oh, something's off here. I wonder why, and there's like definitely not a lot of black people on the show that's about, rap battle. And then this person shows up and, especially if it's like a celebrity or something. So they're only there for one day, but, and does some questionable things when, it's a rap battle show. Like there was definitely some, yeah. I'm not surprised.
I mean, yeah.
I think we all felt that.
Yeah. I mean, and listen, that's the thing too that I think was hard too, because I knew, I knew we both know that there were people that are on that set who are having a really hard time every day as well. And so it was challenging because in a lot of ways, while I did make great friends on the show. I got to meet you. I got to meet, Sean, and I got to meet Red, and like those people are people that are dear to my heart to this day. Nice. I definitely, there were people that I also felt like they were handling their own drama, and so I couldn't go to them and be like, "Here's what I'm going through." Validate my pain. I couldn't do that because they were like, dude, I ain't got time for your shit. I gotta wake up and start all over again the next day. It's hard to tackle that. Yeah, I gotta say it was great. But you came on later, but it was like you were always just a very like bright face to see every day. Like you always were just a shining smile, and I don't know, it was always like, that's Sierra. Like whatever's happening on this set that seems terrible, she looks like she's having a good time,
Oh gosh. Well, thank you. That's no, I mean, it's interesting because I think, like you were saying, there's an interesting balance. I think that we are always having to toe in general, which is like, happy to be here though. I mean, I know the dream job, right? Like that's kind of what, is a lot of entertainment. At the same time, that can be misused by people who are hiring or people who are, creating the atmosphere as like, well, you don't look happy to be here. Like, I remember one of my friend was telling me a story of how, I mean, she was very successful writer out the gate. And, so a young woman, but like a young black woman writer writing for TV. And then she was writing for like an awards show. So a big deal. Mm-hmm. And she like took an Uber there and I think got in some sort of vehicle car accident, like a motorcycle hit the side. So she was okay, but everybody was all right, but it was like stressful. Yeah. So then she shows up, she's obviously a little stressed. And then I guess the person was like, oh, you don't look like you're happy to be here. Or something, something like questioning that right away. And you're like, okay, obviously that's not cool to tell somebody, in the sense that like, for sure, I mean, everybody, good attitudes are great and stuff, but I think like it is crazy how sometimes that gets nitpicked. Who's
man,
who's like,
especially for women. More for women than I think for men. Where like at least in my experience, it feels like women aren't allowed to not be happy. It feels like women. Yeah, like I think at least from what I've seen, especially on various sets, it's like if what's wrong with you? It's like, oh, she's just not smiling. It's okay, like she doesn't. Maybe nothing's wrong. Maybe she just doesn't want to smile right now. And so when I say that you were always a bright face, but that's not like come back good. She's doing what she's supposed to be doing. It was just what a nice smile.
No, thank you. I also was probably genuinely having a good time. Oh wow, we just saw Odell Beckham Jr.'s car is right there. What the hell?
There's Jerry Springer.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah, in the flesh. So of course I was probably genuinely having a good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just but also what you were saying about the more that you spoke up, if they took that as okay, now we're gonna start removing.
It was just scary.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it was just so scary. Each season there were promises made and none of them ever got kept, and it just reinforced this feeling of I got to have my own back on this show, and so it was the anxiety of and again, the fear of if I don't make this work, I may not get another chance like this. On top of, I gotta say the right thing, or else someone's gonna think I'm the ungrateful black man who on set. And then there was this feeling of but I also feel like I'm not being seen as the only other black man in this show that is of the talent. So there was a lot of things that I was constantly grappling with, but you didn't ask any of that. What you asked was how did I do the beatboxing stuff, and so let's talk about that. So some of that stuff was just straight up magic. My favorite episodes were when you would get people who would start off having zero rhythm, and I would just do a backflip and find it. One of those moments was Jerry Springer, right? Jerry Springer. I didn't get to rehearse with him. He only got to rehearse with Micah James, and Micah James went to his house, and they had done a practice rehearsal at his house.
Oh wow, yeah.
And so Jerry came
private coaching.
Yeah, Jerry came to set ready to go, and I think all he had was a recording of me on a phone or whatever. So he shows up to set, rap ready, and he's like, Joshua, give me a beat. And he's going up against Ricky Lake, who I'd worked with. So Ricky Lake was easy, and she was able to ride that beat, and she was great. But Jerry just was like, there really is no beat. Jerry played it like he was playing jazz drums. He was just kind of
breaking all the rules.
And I was like, okay, where is this internal metronome that I have to find? And he did 2 takes that were terrible. And they were about to give up and just move on and be like, he's just not going to sound good, whatever, we're going to call it a loss. And I said to production, give me one more take. Because I had figured out where he was. I figured out where his timing was. And I found him, and he sounded great. And that was the take they used.
Making people look good.
Yeah. And so that was just those moments were fun when I had to play detective and figure out where is this dude's timing? Where is this? He's got a downbeat somewhere. Where does he think it is? Okay, I figured out where he thinks it is. That's right there. It's in the wrong place, but I figured it out. So I did that with Kenny G. I did that with Randy Jackson, who for whatever reason had a hard time finding the beat. Padma Lakshmi was someone who. That was fun.
Also before when I was there, but I know she liked to imbibe, which is not a secret.
Yeah, it's not.
She embraces it.
Yeah. She got wasted. So that was I figured out where she was eventually, and that was okay, I got it. But the only person that I could never find was Gronkowski, and the football player. Oh. Great. And he just. Right. We sat in his dressing room for a good hour, and I just came out of there you lose some. Sometimes you lose some, and that was.
Sometimes.
So you win some.
That's okay. Yeah, he's not, at least he's not in the music industry, so I don't feel like confused. It's like, all right, yeah, maybe his thing is just to like do the celebrity appearances, sign some stuff.
Yeah,
get
and look, the nicest guy, like such a nice guy.
Good.
But I just couldn't figure out what his internal timer was. I couldn't figure it out.
Been shattered.
It was shattered many times. Yeah, a lot of concussions. And so then I ended up. So he didn't get a beat. That was it. Like he was the only.
Oh right.
He's the
right. That's when if you watch it and there's no beat, many people tried to get the beat happening.
That was it. He's the only one that didn't get a beat, and then I think Lil Rel didn't want a beat. But he didn't want one because he wanted to.
He was asking specifically.
Yeah, he was like he wants to do old school style, and he was like, I don't need a beat, and I was like, oh, and then he lost. He lost the rap battle, so so I was like, that's what you get. Yeah, right. But
right.
So yeah, I mean, but where that skill set came from was, going back to the spoken word scene where I was backing up a lot of poets, and my very first beatboxing gig was with a family friend named Cal Bennett. And Cal Bennett is this saxophone player who knows Miles Davis, and he's a dear friend. And when I was about 16, he'd be like, "You want to come up on stage with me and play?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." And so I would sit in with his band and beatbox, and I would learn how to find my beat amongst drums and keys and percussion and horn, and I was like, where do I fit? And so from moving that into like the spoken word scene where I would back up poets, and I would have to find what their rhythm is and accompany them. So I became really good at like listening to artists when I was with them. And so for me, when it was Drop the Mic, I would tell the talent, I'd go, yo, we're in this together. Like this is us, So I was like, I'll follow you. Don't worry about me. Like you just stick to it, and I'll find where you're at. And that's what I did. And so we only had problems when they would like freak out, and I go, no, I got you. Like the first season when I had more time with talent, those were fun. Like I got to like play with them and make them feel comfortable. And then when we got picked up for more seasons, it was like we got more people in to rehearse, and so I didn't get as much time with everybody that I liked to have gotten. But for the most part, that was the skill. It was like let me listen to them. All the rap coaches that came in, whether it was Eliza or Jensen or Micah or Merce or any all the coaches were like, it's about making sure the actors and musicians and whoever was rapping, it's in their own voice. It's in their own authentic style, right? So they're not doing an affected rap voice. And so it's the same thought. It's like, just be you, whatever your rhythm is, find it, and I'll make that work. And that was kind of the fun part of it.
I mean, to make people who have never rapped before rap within the day, because that's all the time that they have. It's
within like
impressive.
2 hours, 3 hours?
Yeah, right, exactly. Like, and sometimes they're like, oh yeah, we have a hard out now. Okay, well, so bye. Like, what's happening? But yeah, that is what a whirlwind.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Drop the Mic.
Is it dead? I mean, I don't even know, man.
Oh, true. Yeah.
What a strange thing.
It's the TV R.I.P.
Right. It just disappeared. It's crazy.
Right.
It's crazy.
But I know. I mean, we're wrapping up here. I don't want to take too much time. We gotta get back to the.
Are
all
we
the things,
wrapping up? Oh, you
kind of.
You comic, you.
Just throwing in a little pun. But I want to ask you, so maybe you have a longer answer. Take your time if you need to. But if you have any positivity tips, that's sort of the underlying theme of the podcast. But I know, like personally, I'm like, I took a little break on the podcast because it's it's not really a time to be positive, but I think it's something I need, which might, be why I tend to be more upbeat, is I do need to feel happy to get work done and to try to change stuff, right? So I think if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think I do. I mean, I'm a very pessimistic person. I'm very skeptical, and but I don't think those are negative. So I'll speak from that place of I listen. There's a lot happening in the world. We're fighting several pandemics. One of them is COVID. The other one is toxic masculinity. The other one is racism. Like we're fighting a lot of things right now that people are literally in the streets protesting. We're trying to get politicians to listen to us more. We also have to get, one of America's biggest tyrants out of the office so we can create actual change in Congress. And I think what I find to be really kind of excellent and cool is people are having different conversations. And I think the fact that Ruby Rose is her name, I think, right? Who was originally Batwoman on the Warner Brothers series. Mm-hmm. Well, she decided to leave the show for whatever reason that was, and then they're casting a black woman to play Batwoman, and I think that's freaking awesome. And I don't know that would have happened if we weren't where we were right now. The fact that they're doing a Wonder Years spinoff, and they're gonna feature a black family. Like, that's super cool to me. I mean, it could be scary because at that time it wasn't very fun to be black in Alabama. But still, the fact is, we're creating differently. We're thinking differently. A lot of us are trying to have different conversations. Some things I don't like. I don't like racism being pushed under the rug. I don't think that they should remove the blackface episodes of 30 Rock. Like, let's leave them there and then talk about it. But I do like that it feels like people are at least interested and what it means to do things differently. Whether or not they're having the real, authentic epiphanies, whether or not they're going, holy shit, I didn't realize I was showing up like this my entire life and now I need to be different. That's a different conversation that needs to be had. But at least we're having it. And for 400 years, living in a country that is predominantly white, those conversations really only existed in pockets of the country. But now those conversations are happening in every pocket of the country right now. Like, you cannot go to a state where there has not been a protest. And that's the first time that's ever happened. There have been protests all over the world. And I mean, there are more protests now than when King died, than when there was the Watts riots, then there was Tulsa. Like, people of color are fed up, and white allies are like, yo, I hear you. What can I do? And I feel like that's remarkable. And I want to lean on that hope, that real change is coming as much as possible. Will that change be a vaccine? Probably not. but will it be that my kids, my kids get to grow up and see, my brown children get to grow up and see themselves in shows and feel like, holy shit, I can do anything. I see more brown and blacks and scientists. I see more brown and black actors. I see more brown and black teachers and politicians and leaders, and like, that to me is exciting. And that to me is super positive. If there is dismantling of police where authority is looking at what it means to what toxic masculinity means, and so therefore women are growing up safer, and we are breaking down the patriarchy. Like, that to me is amazing. If people like you get to fly and soar because of what's happening right now, then I think that's super positive. So my tip for positivity is to lean into that hope that things are changing, and but to also recognize that things aren't going to change unless we are open and willing to keep having the uncomfortable conversations that promotes the change we're looking to have and see. I hope I didn't talk too much.
Yeah. Oh, no, you talked. You should talk more. But yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, I also, speaking of, representation in ways we haven't seen before, I think I would be doing my listeners a disservice if I didn't mention that you were Meghan Markle's first kiss. I realized I should have brought it up earlier.
Listen, the greatest thing I've ever done in my life is kissing a 14-year-old girl when I was 14. That is. I peaked too soon. I peaked too soon.
I think it was really great that she was the one who remembered and called it out. So you didn't have to be like the weird dude, like, listen, I was 14 when I kissed Meghan Markle.
I made a video about it because I thought it was very funny because all of a sudden the press went crazy and it just so happened that the press went crazy when I was doing Drop the Mic, and so they even leaned into like, oh my God, does James Corden know? And I was like, I don't think he gives a shit. But
oh right, British.
right. So because in the Larry King live video, she says, she said, I don't know where he is, and so I thought that was funny specifically because at the time, number one, she did, and number two, I could have called her mom at that moment and been like, hey, why did Megan say...
Hey, yeah, she didn't want to drag you into the mess, but little did she know
she had no choice.
Was going to do it inevitably. It's fine.
Had no choice. So I think she was being nice because at the time I wasn't doing that great. But also I feel like, so I made a video to mock the whole thing, to make fun of what if I was this person who saw that and it broke me. And I thought it was funny. And it's on my Instagram page.
Oh, okay. I gotta watch it.
I think it's a very funny video. I look really fucked up. And I talked about how. So the short story is, she name dropped me in 2014, and at the same time I was doing my solo show, where in the piece I talk about how, I kissed this girl named Megan in theater camp, and therefore I became an actor. So I was name dropping her while she had name dropped me, and we didn't know that. Like, I didn't even know what she was doing. I hadn't followed her career since, like, I don't know, like her mom and I stayed friends, but I hadn't talked to Megan since I was probably like 25. So I didn't know what she was up to. Last I thought she was modeling in Canada. So anyway, so blah, blah, blah. So I didn't know about the Larry King live video until like 2016. And the only reason why I knew is because some dude hit me up on Facebook and was like, is this the same Joshua Silverstein that kissed Meghan Markle? And I was like, ew, yeah, why? And he was,
how do you know that?
Yeah, and I was like, what? And he said, yo, she still want the D. And I was like, what? So he's like, you gotta watch this video. And so, so Cynthia and I watched the video, and he doesn't tell me where it is. We're like, what is? I'm like, oh, it's Megan. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Watching the video, and then it gets to the Larry King live part, and he's like, Joshua, if you're watching this, what you missed. And we thought it was the funniest thing in the world. We like started laughing our asses off. And so I didn't know. They're like, oh my God, this is an old video. Oh my God, she said this thing. Oh, how funny. I said the same thing in my show. That's really funny. And so Cynthia was like, you have no idea. Because when she got engaged to Harry, she was like, you just watch. They're going to come after you. And I was like, no one gives a shit about this. Nobody cares. And she said, you have no idea. You just wait. And so so that was like, honey.
Yeah?
What year did they come to the house? What was that?
2018.
So it's okay. So 2018. So 2018, we had just moved into our place, and I'm sorry, I'm talking too long, but I'll try to keep it short. So 2018. Oh no, this is great. Okay, 2018, we ended up getting our place, and we live in a duplex upstairs, and so it's an old space where they leave the mail on the outside of your building. So the mailbox is exterior, okay? And so I didn't like that because it meant our mailbox was compromised. Like, people could steal mail, and there had been reports of that happening. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go to the post office and see if they will let me move the mailbox to our front door, and that way the mail goes into the house. So I do just that, and I talk to this guy at the post office, and I'm like, hey, mail gets stolen. Our mailbox is out here. Can we put a mailbox slot in our door? He's like, yeah, it's fine. I'll let the carrier know. So we put a hole in the door, put a mail slot there, and the postal carrier is like, I refuse to walk upstairs and put your mail in that slot. I'm not going to do it. And we're like, what? What are you talking about? Your boss said you have to. And she's like, no, I'm not going to do it. And I'm like, okay, well, that's weird. So I go back to the post office, and I go, hey, the postal carrier is refusing to deliver our mail to our door. And then the manager comes out, and she's like, yeah, she won't, and she can't. And we're like, huh? And she goes, yeah, you weren't supposed to do that. You didn't ask my permission. And I said, well, I didn't ask your permission, but I asked another supervisor, and he said it's cool. And she says, did you get it in writing? And I was like, no, but everybody here saw it. And then, this is too much, another postal worker was like, yeah, he did say that. And then the manager was like, shut up. And then she said, well, because you didn't get it in writing, it didn't happen. And until you put the mailbox back where it belongs, you can't get your mail. And I was like, what the hell is happening? Like,
drama.
What is this Twilight Zone thing?
Right.
And so
they don't mess around there at the post office.
Yeah, fucking post office, right? The fucking gangsters. So we didn't get our mail for a week. We ended up putting our mailbox back where it was supposed to be because they made us. And so at the same time, Cynthia's like, hey, honey, there's a guy walking around our foyer. Can you go see who that is? And I go, okay. And I walk outside and I go, can I help you? And he's like, yeah, I'm with the Daily Mail. And I went, oh, the mail. Thank God. Yeah, we are not getting our mail. And it's been.
Oh, my God.
And he's like, no. I'm with the Daily Mail. And I was like, oh, right. This is about Megan. He's like, yes. So you were her first kiss, right? And I was like, yeah. And so he started questioning. I hadn't thought about any of this. And so he starts to question me. Yeah, I can't remember his name, but like we kind of became friends because he was the first reporter that came to my house. But he came to my house. Like the reporters were literally beginning to seek me out. So they started going to my house, and I started getting emails and phone calls, and people were like, what's the story? What's the story? And I realized, okay, I got to get ahead of this or else they're going to make up something that didn't happen. So I had about 25 interviews about a kiss that happened when I was 14 years old that I barely remember. So I pulled out as much material as I could from that memory, which is, again, not much. We were junior high school. It was a summer thing. We were in theater camp together. And so, so the point, the reason why I brought this whole weird story up is I was talking about the story about how, about how I got hit up by I'm talking about, like, everyone hit me up, like Japan. I did an interview with Japan TV, right? And people paid for it. People it was a thing. Entertainment Tonight interviewed me. Yeah, I did the whole thing. And every interview I was very respectful. I was like, she's great, she's lovely, she's nice. I respect, good for her. I hope they're in love. I hope, it doesn't matter that he's a prince as long as they're happy, blah, 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 blah. And I wrote about this in this video that I made, and people got angry because they thought, I guess the way they portrayed this whole thing was that I was trying to somehow, like, that I sought the reporters out. And they were like, this is gross. And I was like, it's not gross. It's kind of I'm making fun of myself, not her. And right. But anyway, that whole thing was
people
crazy.
Don't know how things work.
Yeah. I was like, I didn't I didn't go to like to NBC and go, hey guys, guess what? You know, I'm me. Yeah, it's me. Yeah, no, like I tried to avoid it as much as possible until it was like I can't avoid it anymore. It's happening everywhere. And then I was like, well, I gotta be smart about this. I should get a PR person. I should make this work so I don't fuck up and make this weird. But that never happened. So I just kind of, I just used my best judgment. But anyway, in the video, I make fun of myself, not Megan. And people didn't get that. Yeah, people thought I was being gross.
It's tough, people will think what they think. But I do, I can vouch for the fact that I think that, if people want a story, they will come hunt you down for sure,
man.
right?
They came to our home. It was crazy.
That's so weird. I mean, and they control the narrative, so you do kind of want to make sure that you're at least making sure to set it straight so that they can pay attention to that instead of whatever they want. Oh, a source says that.
Yeah, and it was
still
weird.
Wants to be, like.
You're right. And the weird thing was like the questions were so surprising. Like there were questions like, "Was it good?" And I'm like, I was 14. I mean.
Yeah, creepy question.
Like, if I was like, then it'd be awful. If I was
there's literally no way to answer that. What? I mean, the only way to answer is I was 14.
I was 14, and that was my answer. I was like, I was 14.
Great.
I don't think it was a bad kiss, but it wasn't my first kiss. So people were like, so you were kissing her.
Yeah,
and I was like, no, I'm not. Next question. Yeah, I mean, I tell you what.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, the only interview I actually did seek out, and I'm ashamed to admit this, but I was out late and I was drinking, and I got really, really drunk, and there was something was happening across from the club I was at, and I think it was TMZ. And they were looking for someone, and I was like, "Hey, you guys want to talk to Meghan Markle's first kiss?" And they're like, "Yeah, who is it?" And I was like, "Look it up."
This guy. And did they talk to you right then and there?
Yeah, they did, but it was very much.
Nice.
But then I think I had realized what I was doing, and I was like, "Ooh, I gotta get out of this." And so you can Google. Yeah, you can Google it.
It's a very understandable thing.
Yeah, you can Google it and see like I'm immediately embarrassed for what I'm doing, and I'm not really responding to the questions very well. Anyway,
That's
so
yeah, incredible. Well, yes, this is the true story of the first kiss.
I still get interviews. I still get people still.
Oh wow! She's still around.
Yeah, I haven't given them.
I haven't.
I've stopped giving them, but people are still emailing me, going, "Hey, can you talk about it? Can you talk about it?" And I'm like, "It's
I mean, you're still getting asked on podcasts, so clearly,
not as much as I need to be." Yeah.
Well, yes. Yeah. What a great thing to great story to end on there.
Hey, man.
But yes, also I always ask guests to plug their stuff too before we close out.
Cool.
So
shameless
tell
plugs.
us where we can find you.
So the best place to find everything I'm doing now is at the Joshua Silverstein on Instagram. We do the Silversteins show every day there. You can also catch information about what my comedy partner Joe Hernandez-Kolsky and I are doing. Our Instagram page is at Joe and Joshua. But everything kind of lives on my page, the Joshua Silverstein Instagram page, and that's everywhere. I mean, on Twitter I am at the Joshua RS. But if you go to Twitter, you'll see that I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm doing.
Joshua's.
Yeah, I'm a pirate on Twitter. But that's what I got. I got a show I do every day. I got a show I do on Fridays with Joe. And Cynthia, in addition to us doing the news show, we're going to start doing our podcast very soon. So, yeah.
Oh, incredible. Yes, I recommend,
Yeah.
It's a fun medium.
We're figuring it out. So we're going to get it going.
Cool. Well, yay. Congrats on, all the things. So many projects in the works. And thank you again for coming on. This was so fun.
Thank you. And before I go, I do a writing workshop every month. So if you are someone who has the very small, minute inclination to write, You ain't got to be a professional. You just have to be brave enough to tell your story. It's a safe space for people to process their own stuff. We meet throughout the week. So, again, that's on my page, and hit me up. Yeah, that's it. I'm done talking. I talk too much.
No, that's great. All right, well, thanks for listening to that fun interview with Joshua Silverstein. Hilarious. So much to talk about. Thank you for listening. Make sure to check out all his stuff. Instagram, follow him on Instagram, get more content. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a relatively all right time. I would say, so I had a birthday that just happened this past weekend, which was lots of fun. Birthdays are weird, but when they're in quarantine, they're even weirder. Good to get a year older while the world stands still, I suppose. Very poetic. A couple good things that came out of it. I got a mango cake delivered, which you can do. It doesn't even have to be your birthday. You can always get a cake delivered to your house. Or pizza, which is also kind of a cake-like thing. And the other thing that happened to me recently is I cut my finger with a little butter knife. That we have serrated butter knives here in my household, which I know, very bougie. But I was trying to cut. I was getting greedy, trying to get another lemon slice out of this lemon, and sliced my finger open. And, it wasn't that bad, but I did get kind of bloody, and, was very bloody, and I got lightheaded. I didn't realize how terrible I am with blood, because it just doesn't, I don't know, I haven't had a big blood situation, other than my period, recently. So, yeah, so it was definitely very, it was shocking. It makes me really appreciate doctors and surgeons and people who can do that kind of stuff, so... and also they're helping with COVID, so give them a round of applause. But yeah, we put a Band-Aid on it, and I'm healing as I speak, actually. So congratulations to me. So those are just a couple updates from me, and I figured I'd share with you guys. And I hope you're not weirded out at all. All right, thanks. Bye. Stay positive, stay positive, stay positive with